Hey, welcome. Hi. Let me just start again. Hey. Hey, welcome to this video on everything I did to make and save £30,000 whilst being an international student and having limited work hours. So I just want to start by saying apologies for my voice and if I sniff in between talking. I'm currently suffering from a really bad cold, but I didn't want to postpone this because I've been wanting to do this video in a long time, and I feel like now is a good time to do this video. You know, the moment is now. If I don't do it now, it's gonna be never. To start by caveating the situation. Is that the right English? Caveating this situation. Anyway, I want to place a caveat here to say that my dad paid for my fees, so as an international student, and what he paid for covered tuition, accommodation, and literally just enough to survive in terms of food and transport, nothing more. And I feel like that's an important thing to mention because you can kind of equate this, if there's any home students that are watching this, to getting a student loan. You know, you get enough to pay your tuition and your accommodation and enough to get by. So all the money that is I'm talking about making in this situation, I just want you to keep in mind, I did not use this towards accommodation, my fees, or food. Well, I did end up using some of it to pay for my accommodation, but that wasn't really the plan. And then the second thing I want to say, this is specifically to my relatives, I do not have this £30,000. I'm joking. I really do not have the £30,000, but I was joking about the relatives thing. I actually don't know where this money has gone. I really do not, and that's something that I wish I had known before. Just how to use savings, how do you invest, but that's for a whole different video. I'll just go straight into everything I did to make the £30,000 and save it. The first thing is I know it's hard. The first thing is staying in the UK over the summer holiday. For international students, I know this is very tough because, you know, our family is back home and we miss just being at home, being with familiar people. We miss the food, but staying in the UK during the summer turned out to really help me towards making £30,000 and saving this money. First of all, during the summer, you get really subsidized rent. So what you would do is you would go to the typical student accommodations that actually cost a lot more if it's during term time, but during summertime it is heavily subsidized, and usually in a fantastic location. So the reason I chose not to go home during summer holidays wasn't just to take advantage of subsidized accommodation. Going to Zambia is very expensive. It costs about £1,000 on average just on the flight, and it can be argued that the amount of money you end up spending in the UK and back home ends up being the same, or at the end of the day it might even be less when you go back home. But I was coming from a different situation, as most international students are coming from a different situation, where we need some UK work experience for our CVs. For some reason, international work experience just isn't as highly regarded as work experience in the UK, and we need that to then apply for internships, placements, jobs. In my case, I actually didn't have anything like any work experience, and that's just because the Zambian culture isn't really set up that way. Usually you're expected to go to university and not work, and then get the degree and then get the job. So I felt like I was behind my peers in terms of having evidence of skills that I can bring. And so I was like, I'm gonna stay in the UK during summer, get subsidized rent, and find a job. My first job was with a company called Circle, where I did a contract for 2 months. I won't get into the details of what exactly I was doing. I think that would be for a different video. And I was earning £300 per week pre-tax, and I think after tax it came up to maybe about £210 a week or 250 a week, somewhere there. And that's where I began my journey to saving the £30,000, the £300 a week. And again, I was living in very pretty subsidized rent. It was really cheap. And to be specific, the company was Unite. And I know Unite is usually pretty expensive. International students, you know what I'm talking about. Unite is expensive. But actually look out for their summer lets. Their summer lets are pretty cheap, and they obviously want students to rent the place out because they can't rent to the general public during that time, something to do with the law. So use that to your advantage. My second thing that I need to really stress out is you need to work for the universities. Work for the university. Find a job with the university. Anything to do with the university, because the university will pay you more. They will pay you more than local companies. They will pay you more than, trust me, the universities. The universities look for jobs at the universities. The other thing about working with the universities is that they will even pay towards your pension a lot of the times. And what I did at that point, I don't think I really knew a lot about pensions, to be honest. I ended up getting all the money back that they had paid into my pension at the end of my contracts with the university, and that added towards the £30,000. Going back to the point on working for the university, you have to be super creative. You have to be super creative about the kind of jobs you take at the university, and some of them are not as straightforward and obvious, but I mean, this is the whole point of the video, to kind of get you in the headspace of thinking a bit different as to what you can do at the university that will earn you money. I'll start with the jobs I did, from like the most obvious, less complex, to the ones where I don't think you would typically think the university would offer you these kind of jobs. So the first one is volunteering in your department. Guys, this is the UK, nothing is free. Volunteering, they will pay you to volunteer, and like I said, it's usually higher paying than working elsewhere. So for example, when I was at uni in Liverpool, I think minimum wage was £7.50, and volunteering for my university was about £8.50 an hour. I think something like that, or £9 an hour, ranging between £8.50 to £9 an hour versus £7.50 minimum wage. And that's what I was getting when I was working at Circle, which wasn't part of the university or anything like that. So weigh it up. Volunteer in your department, guys. They will pay you to volunteer. The second one is another obvious one, being a student ambassador. Being a student ambassador is super easy. You give campus tours. Honestly, there's like different jobs that happen as a student ambassador. I'm sure you guys are aware. You can literally just like go on the university website and type in student ambassador, and you'll be told everything they do. Some jobs are pretty long but low effort. For example, picking up students from the airport, international students most of the time. You get paid, honestly, it was like £80 a day just to go to the airport to pick up someone. Honestly, it was fantastic. The third one, I think, is also another less well-known one a little bit. Work for your English language center as like an English language assistant. So for University of Liverpool and a lot of universities in the UK, I know, have English hubs for international students, specifically international students that don't come from a country where they would have been speaking English as their first language. And usually there's roles where you're kind of just helping the students with like registration, also picking them up from the airport, doing activities, and you're not really front and center. It's more like admin work and picking them up from the airport. And that's another one where you could honestly get like £80 a day just for a couple of hours of working in the English language center. So I did that for a couple of years, on and off, because the hours, it's really like first come first serve. They'll send an email to say, we need this done, who can volunteer? And if you volunteer quick enough, you get the job. Go do the job, get money for it. And like I'm saying, guys, the university pays a lot. Okay, so even if you're doing a couple of hours, it's more than minimum wage, so it's a win-win. The fourth one is another one that I think is also not really well known, placements. I actually did my 1 year placement with my university. I did it in the computer science department, and I was doing like technical infrastructure and support for a year. I know that there are a lot of people that are reluctant to do their placements with the university because they feel like they have a better chance at getting into a bigger company when they graduate, which is really important for us international students because the bigger companies are the ones that are least likely to be reluctant to sponsor your visa. I totally get it. But trust me, you'll be fine. I did my placement at the university and I still ended up getting into a really good company, one of the best out there, and had no issues with visas or anything like that. And the placement I did was actually significantly higher paid than a lot of my peers. And then another thing to mention that I think maybe international students don't realize is when you're on placement, the whole 20 hours thing is not a thing anymore. So you can do your placement and still do the part-time jobs with the university, whether it's like student ambassador, and you'd be getting paid for both. So the fifth one, which I really should have mentioned before the placement, is internships at the university. So plenty of departments in the universities typically do internships as well over the summer. If you're thinking, how do I find out about these internships? This is where you kind of bring in your networking skills, like make sure you're in a good earring shot, I guess, of a lot of people that play a part in making decisions in these departments. Volunteering around the university will really expand your network. In fact, doing anything, just think about doing anything to expand your network, and that ends up being super useful because a lot of the people that you would have known will shed light to internships in other departments. That's pretty much what happened to me. I did so many internships in different departments, and again, more high paying than getting a job elsewhere. And also, sometimes they want, not sometimes, I know this happens, they want students to work on projects over the summer, and there's a set amount of money they will pay you, like £3,000 for 8 weeks worth of work. And it's pretty chill. Guys, just work for the university, honestly. That's pretty much half of what I'm saying here. The universities have so many opportunities to do work that is meaningful, builds onto your CV, and you can it's honestly like, just to say it out there, it's a lot of money and you can save this towards whatever. Don't be like me who just blew the £30,000. I cannot tell you where the £30,000 went, but I just know it was £30,000 because, yeah, I know it's my bank account, okay? So, just again expanding a bit more on work. One thing that I did was a job with the university teaching hospital. So, although I was working for, to be specific, the clinical engineering and medical physics department within the hospital, the university was actually funding that project because the design engineer that had designed the equipment that we were making, my role was to make, it was like a medical equipment to detect a specific eye disease. And the person that had designed that device worked for the university as well and was always being represented by the university. So that's why the university actually paid us for that work. So it's jobs like that where you think, oh, I would not have thought of that. But then if you really think about it, there's so many companies, there's so many organizations, there's so many things that are just linked to the university. The university teaching hospital, check them out. Check out what jobs that they have specifically tied to the university. Boom. I bet you didn't think of that. You did not think of that. I know for a fact you didn't. My next one is being a career coach. I feel like this one really works when you have done all the prior stuff. So like I've said, I did a lot of internships with the university. I had a placement. I worked with the hospital. I did a lot. And it was enough for me to be recruited as to apply to be a career coach. And the university gives you lots of training as well to be a career coach, so that you know exactly what it is you're doing and how to help the students. And again, decent amount of pay. I think I worked 10 hours a month and I got about almost £400 for 10 hours a month. Guys, I'm sorry, but that is, to me, that's amazing money. Amazing money. I mean, I don't know what it's like these days, but for me at that time at uni, 10 hours a week, and then 10 hours a month to get like close to £400, that's a good deal. The other thing I wanted to mention is more of like a final year thing. So if you're in final year, try to become if you're in final year, try to become a residential advisor. Being a residential advisor means you pay either no rent in student accommodation or very, very cheap rent. And when I mean cheap, I mean like cheap. And usually you'll be living on campus, so you'll be in a good location. You probably will never need to spend any money on transport. I spent £0 on transport whilst in my final year because I'm a residential advisor, and I was literally in the best halls that the university had, meaning best location, meaning I never had to pay for transport to go anywhere because I could walk everywhere. It was just a fantastic location and extremely cheap rent. And eventually, by the time I was leaving, they had actually made it free for residential advisors. So think about doing that. Final one, my final piece of source of money is competitions. Now, this one is a bit of a different one because I know it's not, you cannot guarantee, I know you cannot guarantee winning a competition. However, if you try a lot of the times, you eventually win a few. I did a number of competitions, lots of different ones, and won quite a bit of them, and that contributed to my money pot. So I'm not really sure if I should give explicit examples right now, but usually your university will have a way for you to know what is happening around you, in terms of competitions, whether it's like regional or whether it's a university competition. And a lot of them have monetary prizes, or even like £500 Amazon voucher, for example. And or I really don't know how to describe this one, except like putting it under competitions. What I also said on my notes was applying for student funding. If you're entrepreneur, if you've got ideas for a business, an app, that sort of thing, there is always an entrepreneurship hub at the university, and they will always have funding for your ideas. They will always have funding for your app. Trust me, it's there. You just have to know how to write a business plan, and there's so many resources these days on the internet that will teach you how to write a business plan, that will teach you how to pitch. So you're good there. You're good. So just to give a roundup of everything I've said, and you know what, guys, let me just say this. One of the reasons why I think I've procrastinated doing this video is I feel like this sounds insane, I think, but I feel like sometimes the internet has suddenly like made everyone a guru, and I really do not want to come on here and sound like a guru or like I know things. It's just I realized now, as like a fully employed young 26-year-old, that £30,000 would be really good in my bank account right now. Like I would really love the £30,000. But then when I reflected on my uni days, I realized I did make £30,000 somehow, regardless of only being able to work maximum 20 hours a week. I didn't even work 20 hours a week most of the time. I think on average, I probably average like 5-6 times a week. I know there'll be someone who's super smart who's like going to calculate it and say, if you're saying you got 30,000 pounds, then that doesn't equate, but there's the competitions bit. Anyway, what am I saying? I'm saying that, right now when I look back, I realize I did make 30,000 pounds somehow that I could have used to do whatever. And I didn't even really realize, although when I do sit back and reflect, I did so much stuff. It wasn't like it's just something that happened. I was very intentional in everything that I was doing, and it resulted in me having 30,000 pounds. So I just thought, in this climate we're in, it's really hard. It's always been hard for international students to get jobs. Always been hard, always been so difficult, and it's for multiple reasons, and which I think maybe that could be a video for another day, like some of the reasons why it's so hard for international students to get a job, even with the new visa route thing. And so for me, that's one of the reasons why I was so intentional with everything that I was doing, and it just ended up with me being in a position where I was able to make money and save money without doing all the crypto stuff. Although I wish I had known about those things, because I think that could have been I wish I had learned that stuff a bit earlier. Maybe not the crypto part, but just like trading stocks and things like that, and investments. Anyways, that's the end of my video. I hope you liked it. I apologize for my sniffing if I haven't edited it out, and my voice, but I hope you found this really helpful. Yeah.